Yeah, so the subject of characteristics, that's the normally when we study the rulings of tajweed, we start with the articulation points, then we go to the characteristics. So each letter, although it has a specific articulation points, and some of them have approximate articulation points, they also have characteristics which needs to be followed, and each one of these characteristics has has consequences for it. So when you say the characteristic is this or that, it follows from that characteristic that there is a ruling in the recitation. So that's why we define it. So there is a brief introduction in the book that talks about that in the science of tajweed, what we mean by characteristics of the Arabic letters is those characteristics which distorting them affects the sound of the letter, like the whispering and the apparent and lowering and elevation, contrary to the titles of letters by which the letter is related to a certain area of the mouth, which is the articulation point, such as shajariya and nat'iyya. So these are groups of articulation points which is different from the characteristics of the letters. Now in the characteristics we have two groups. One group which is characteristics which has opposites to them. So you have one type and then you have the contrary to it. And then you have other characteristics which doesn't have any opposites. So in the book we have four groups of characteristics for the ones which have contrary. Normally they study 5, so we're going to put the 5th one here. However, the 5th one doesn't have any implications on the tajweed. It's more like a linguistic characteristic. And these are in total 9, because the second one has 2 types of contraries to it. So each one has 2, 2, 2, and then the second one has 3. So the total is 9 characteristics. The names of them in Arabic. So the first one is al-jahr wal-hams. Al-jahr wal-hams. The English translation for that is apparent and whisper. The second characteristic is al-shidda, or strength. The opposite of it is al-rakhawa, or looseness or softness. So you will see in the book sometimes I use looseness, sometimes I use softness, because softness confuses it with other characteristics like al-lean and other things. So I personally prefer to choose looseness, and I've already reached out actually to Al-Ghawthani to ask them to correct this or to change it, because softness is kind of very open-ended towards other characteristics. Al-Bayniyya, or in between, that's from the name, it's somewhere in between the strength and the looseness or the softness. Then we have the characteristic of elevation, of isti'la, and the opposite for it is the characteristic of lowering, or al-istifal. And you have the characteristic of adhesion, which is al-itbaq, and the opposite for it is the openness, which is al-infitah. And then you have al-idlaq and al-ismat, so eloquence and abstention. But as I said, like this one is, we're not going to touch much on it because it doesn't have any implications on the pronunciation. It's more into linguistics, right? So you can tell if the word has Arabic roots or not based on this characteristic, but from the way you read the letters, from the way you do the tajweed, it doesn't have any implications. The other group, which has no opposites, there is 8 of them. So technically the total is 8 plus 9, which is 17. And if you look at the numbers, you see that we have 17 articulation points and 17 characteristics. So the number is kind of matching. Not sure if it's by accident, but alhamdulillah, it's a good thing because it will be easy to memorize. These are, without any specific order, the whistling, which is a safir, the qalqala, which is also qalqala in English. Then they have the softness, which is lean. You see why I chose to say looseness on the rakhawa, because it's kind of double translated in the book, which needs to be corrected. Then you have al-inhiraf, which is drifting. You have al-takrir, which is repetition. You have al-tafashi, which is spreading. You have the istitala, which is lengthening. And you have the ghunna, which is nasalization. So lots of acronyms, lots of things. You don't have to stress too much because we're going to go through each one of them separately and understand all of it, inshallah. But before we do any of that, I noticed that in the last session and the previous ones as well, I started using some of these terminologies, which I'm mindful that maybe not all of you guys are familiar with the Arabic terms. So it's a mistake from my side. If you want to take a screenshot for this page, it will help you with understanding what I mean by things when I say them in English. So this one tells you the Arabic word with the Arabic pronunciation and the English transliteration. Yeah. So fatha means the zabar'a, some people call it. Dhamma is the u, and then the kasra is e, and the sukun is that small sign which is the tip of a ha on top of the letter. Then you have the tip of a kha, which is khafif. And then you have the harf maftuh, which means the letter which has a fatha on top of it. Harf madmum, which is the harf which has dhamma on top of it. And then harf maksur, which is the harf which has a letter which has a kasra underneath it. And harf sakin, which is the letter which has a sukun on it. Then when I say muraqqaq or muraqqaqa, depends on like feminine and masculine, it means light. And if I say mufakham or mufakhama, that means heavy. So I see that someone is raising his hand. Yes, brother?
Yes, assalamu alaikum. So some mushaf doesn't have anything for sukoon. Is it correct?
No. There's no mushaf that doesn't have anything, but they have different usage for the sukun. And if you follow, and I asked everyone from the beginning, and all the teachers as well, to read on the Uthmani script, the one which the Mushaf al-Madina and others, because that's the standard we're following in the book as well. But if you're reading maybe the Urdu Mushaf, you will see that the use of the sukun is slightly different from the use of the Uthmani Mushaf. But they will have a symbol, and the symbol will mean something, but it's slightly different. Many cases it's the same, but in some cases it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, just one more thing. So if there is nothing on the letter, then we recite it a different way.
Yeah. So it depends again which mushaf you're talking about. If you're talking about the Uthmani mushaf, that if there is no haraka on the letter, that means this letter is interacting with the letter after it. So if the letter after it has shadda, then that means there is a idgham that's happening. If the letter after it doesn't have shadda, then it could be ikhfa or it could be idgham naqis. So we'll study this inshallah later in the book, the symbols and what they mean in the mushaf. Does that answer your question, brother?
Yes, Jazakallah.
Jazakallah khair, inshallah. Okay, so let's start with another addition as well to the book, which I felt that we need to understand before reading it. So this is the difference between breath and sound. الفرق بين النفس والصوت. Because when we study the characteristics, we'll start talking sometimes about the breath and sometimes talking about the sound. So we need to differentiate between these two. The breath, from a tajweed perspective, is the air coming out from the lungs by nature. So this is when you pronounce some letters. Some letters are produced by spreading air. The other letters, sometimes they have sound associated with that. So that's why we say this is different from breath. You still need to use some air to produce the sound, because eventually it's a vibration of the air layers in the way, like when it touches the vocal cords, which makes specific frequency waves that you could hear. So it's kind of a vibration that's produced by air, but it's not the air itself. So these two terminologies, you will come to see them very soon into usage. هذا الفرق بين الصوت والنفس. النفس يعني هو فقط الهواء المتدفق، والساوند اللي هو الصوت، اللي هو الارتجاج الذي يحدث في القصبات الصوتية، في الحبال الصوتية. So let's take the first characteristic, whisper and apparent. If you read from the book, inshallah, it will say that the Arabic letters are divided into two groups, from the way that the air is flowing or the air is blocking, right? So this whisper is purely related to the flow of the air, right? So if you talk about al-hams, for example, al-hams whispering linguistically means making it lower voice or making it kind of disapparent. It's not clear, right? But in the Quran Tajweed, it's basically the running of the air during pronouncing the letter, because the letter doesn't depend much on the articulation point. And it has 10 letters. These 10 letters, Imam al-Jazari combined them in this sentence, which is فحثه شخص سكت. فحثه شخص سكت. If you see all of these letters, they are called like this because they are whispered, because they are produced with a lowered voice, with a whispered voice, with a secret voice. So I'll give you an example, and all of these examples you will notice that they have a sukoon on the letter, because that's how you can tell the articulation point of the letter. So if you say أفواج الرحمن مثقال اهدنا اشتروا يخطف سيصلى اسكن أكبر كورت. So all of these letters, the 10 of them, are the whispered letters. You could easily test it if you put your hands in front of your mouth when you pronounce them. You could see that there's air coming towards your hand. The opposite to it is the apparent letters. Now, al-jahr linguistically means announcement, means being very loud, clearly saying something. But in the tajweed, it means the blockage actually of the air flow when you pronounce the letter, because when you're hitting the articulation point, you're hitting it too hard that there is no more air coming to pronounce the letter. And this one is in the other 19 letters. So 10 plus 19, that's the total 29. So everything else is the whispered letters. They are not summarized in a sentence that I have for you. But this is basically everything else apart from these 10 letters. And again, we call them majhura, we call them apparent, because they are produced by a very clear and strong sound. So the examples would be تقرب العجل الأرض اذكروا عدل. So you see these ones, if I stop on the dal, ad, you don't see any more air coming, yeah, when I'm stopping on it. The only way I could run away from that hardness is by doing the qalqala. So I say ad, that's the only way I could run away from that blockage of the air. So if you see the book shows you more photos, which I cannot copy unfortunately, but you have the QR code. You could actually listen and see for yourself how the vocal cord is moving between the whispering and between the apparent. So on the apparent letters, they actually what they have done is they got a camera underneath your throat, and they started videotaping how the vocal cords start moving when you pronounce these letters. And you see that it's with the jahr letters, these are closes, and with the whispering, it's open. Any question on these characteristic brothers? Or it's good. Let's go to the other one. Now, why I'm saying that this is important, we'll see later. Yani we'll see once we get to the letters themselves. You will see why understanding the characteristic of each letter is important. Because if you give one of the whispering characteristics to one of these letters, it changes that letter completely. Right? Like qaf, for example. The qaf is a majhur letter. The qaf. If I give a little bit of air when I pronounce it, it becomes kaf. Right? So if I say takarraba ka, now air came out, the qaf becomes kaf, because it's also close from the articulation point perspective. The other way is also valid. If I don't say akbar, if I say akbar, then I change the kaf into another letter. So it's very important that when we show the whispering for these letters, in contrary to the other letters which are majhur. The other characteristic is the shidda and rakhawa al-bayniyah, strength, softness or looseness, and the in-betweenness. The shidda from linguistically means strength. However, in the tajweed, it's actually the blockage of the voice when you pronounce the letter, because the articulation point is so stiff that you cannot produce any more sound when you pronounce the letter. So the examples we have, and we have to understand that we have to read them first before the full tajweed rulings. I mean qalqala and other things. The letters are summarized in the sentence which is ajid qatim bakat. Some people also summarize it in another sentence which is ajiduka tutbiqa, ajiduka tutbiqa, because these letters are also huruf itbaq, some of them. So you say ajiduka tutbiq because you're blocking the articulation point on the letter. So ajidu qatim bakat, these letters, you can notice that qutbu jad is the qalqala letters. So it's actually qutbu jad, the qalqala letters, plus the alif or the hamza and the kaf and the ta. Hamza, kaf and ta plus qutbu jad. If I say the ta'murunani or ta'murunni, in both cases, the hamza, if I stop on it without continuing, it will sound like ta, ta. So you see the sound is stopped. That's it. I can't do anything further on the hamza. If I go to the next example, the jim, if I stop on it without continuing, it's taj, taj, taj. I can't. If I move on, it will have to be qalqala. Taj, taj. So you see the qalqala follows the blockage which happens. Same thing with the dal. Ad, ad. If I move on, it will be ad, ad. Same thing with yaq, 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 ba'u, yab, yab. You see the difference? Same thing with yak. Now in this one there is no qalqala on the kaf and the ta. So the way you run from it is by doing the whisper. So instead of stopping at yak, it becomes yak, yak, yaktubun, atqakum. If I don't say that, it becomes at, at. So that's why these two letters are whispered and also are shadid at the same time. So they are mahmusa shadida. If you look at all of the others, they are all majhura. So the only ones who are whispered from these ones, فَحَثَّهُ شَخْصٌ سَكَتْ, only two from these which are shadid is the kaf and ta. Everything else is shadid and majhur at the same time, strong and apparent. Apart from these two are whispered and strong. So that's the hint for memorization, inshallah. The looseness or the softness here in the book, but let's use looseness. It's the running of the sound when you're pronouncing the letter, because the articulation point is not so hardly touched. And that's the summary of it, is the 16 letters, apart from the which is everything else apart from these ones and the in between, which is lin umar. So the in between lin umar are letters where the breakage of the sound is somewhere in between. So it's not fully blocked, but it's not fully running. It's not smooth. There's some kind of blockage on the articulation point, and that's summarized in these letters. So if you take these lin umar letters, the 5 of them, and then you take these 8 of them, then you have your rest is 16. All of them are loose letters. The example would be ashtata tahmil fayadhhab. You see how the sound is ash. I could keep going, right? Is anyone asking questions? Sorry. An example for that. Al-Hams, when there are two sakin letters at the end of such a surah of Al-Nasr. We'll get to this inshallah. We'll get to this, brother. Don't worry. One step at a time. So ashtata tahmil tah. You see how I can keep on going with the sound. Fayadh. I could keep going, right? The in-between letters are, from the name, it's somewhere between the shidda and the rakhawa. So the sentence they used is the words of Lin Umar, which is the lam and the noon and the ayn and the mim and the ra. And subhanAllah, that's a very good choice from the people who, I think it's Imam al-Jazari who used this, maybe I'm mistaken. But it means in Arabic, Lin Umar means become softer or Umar. Become softer or Umar. Because Umar ibn Khattab used to be, very strong and very rigid. So it's as if saying, you don't have to be that rigid, you be somewhere in between, So that's the choice of the word, Lin Umar. Now in these ones, there is a slight blockage on the articulation point. So let's take some examples. I think we need to do this as per the book. Yeah. So the book talks about the page 62, the in-betweenness in harful lam. In-betweenness in harful lam, the partial flow of the sound when pronouncing the lam is due to the interception of the tip of the tongue, because the tip of the tongue is sitting in the way of the sound. So that's why it's L. So it's not fully open, it's not fully blocked. There is a blockage on the articulation point, but it's running. The ra is very similar because they are close by. And then if you remember, we said the lam is that you're touching from the tip of the tongue, while the ra, the tip of the tongue is the open area, and then you're touching from the sides of the tongue. So you say ar, right?
Brother Yasir, the first one,
Yeah.
it has kasra, so it will be ilm or al.
Which one? Il.
Ilm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not. This is the example I'm reading from the book, actually. Yeah, I'm reading from the book. You have to follow me on the book, page 63. So that's the reason why we are putting the lam and the ra in the in-between category, because the tongue is sitting in the way. Then we have the noon and the meme. The noon and the meme, the reason why we put them in the in-between is because they have the two parts, one mouth part and the other one is nasal part. So the mouth part is blocking, but the nasal part is still running, right? So that's why these two. And the ayn is a very special one. So if you go to page 64, we say the partial flow of the sound when pronouncing the letter ayn due to the withdrawal of the epiglottis. Because when you say the ayn, it's not a full blockage. You say ah. So that reflection that happens in the end of the ayn is why the ayn is in between letter. So this in-betweenness and looseness and strength has a consequence for it, right? So the consequence is something that we talked about with everyone individually during the interviews, for those of you who remember, and I said I will remind you in the course, inshallah. So this subject is called the duration of the vowel letters. قياس أزمنة الحروف. So the letters in Arabic language are one of two. They are either voweled letters or they are non-voweled letters. The duration of the non-voweled letters are proportional to the flow of the sound therein. And the duration of the voweled letters is equal. So every letter which has a haraka on it, fatha, dhamma, kasra, in the Quranic recitation, it takes the exact same amount of time to read. That's why people who don't give the same amount of time to pronounce the letters, we call this ikhtilas. They take a little bit of the time which is necessary to produce the sound, or tamṭit, which is when they spend too much time on the letter, so they make it longer than they should be. The example is the word kutiba. Kutiba. Ta ta ta. Same sound, same time. Kutiba. Right? You can't say kutiba. Kutiba. Now what you did is you made the kaf and the ba longer, slightly longer than the ta. The ta took less time to produce. So you have to say kutiba. You have to give the time for the ta to be enough, to be similar to the other vowel letters. So that's a general rule. Everywhere you read the Quran, all vowel letters, they should take the same time. When it comes to non-vowel letters, then these are all huruf with sukun on them, sakin letters. So these ones, the loose letters or the soft letters, the book calls them, they take longer to pronounce. And the letters which are in between, they take slightly less than the loose letter, but more than the strong letter. And then the strong letters take the shortest amount of time. So if you take the example of Surah Al-Sharh, you will see that we highlighted here the colors of the letters based on the category of the harf, from the characteristic of the shidda and raha and bayniyah. The example is the harful mim here, for example, harful ayn, harful lam, harful ayn here, harful lam, harful lam, harful ra. All of these are in between letters, so they should take in between time. The sheen, the ha, the zai, the ha, sin, sin again, sin again, and the ghain. All of these are loose letters, so they should take longer time to pronounce. And all of the red letters are the strong letters, which should take less time. And all of the black letters, they take common time, because these are mutaharrikat, huruf with haraka. Right? So let's read it quickly. I think we should also maybe color code the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So the sin and the ha, or also the first ha here, and the sin, these two are loose letters. These two are loose letters. Yes, someone is raising the hand. Brother.
Yes, brother, on the book, the colors are different. The sheen and ha is red, and dal and kaf is green.
Yeah,
Or at least my book.
because he didn't use my the color I use green is green, blue, red. So it's flipped. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's the same thing. The example on the presentation follows the colors follow the text, and in the book the color follows the text.
Okay.
Because I can't copy 100%. Okay, let's give it an example, inshallah. So I'll read it quickly. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Sin loose, ha loose, the ra and the ra here are in between, and the lam here bismil, bismil, the first lam of the shadda, that's also in between, right? And then when you stop on the meme, that's also in between. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. So you see, this is the timing of the letters. Normally in a smaller class we do this each one, but it will take maybe an hour to finish all 24. So I'll ask you to exercise on this at home. Maybe listen to the book. It has, so if you go to page 67, you can follow that QR code and you will listen to Dr. Ayman reading this and then just follow him. Jazakumullah khair. Any questions so far apart from the color code? Like any issues?
Do you have time to give a bit of a summary of what you just said
Yeah.
for these three kinds?
Yes.
What is sorry, the in between the how to get to the point. So yeah, from there to till what you said about the vowels and non-vowels.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit getting lost somewhere, but
No, that's fine. That's fine. Look, brother, because we said the letters of all of the alphabet, the Arabic alphabet, is each letter has a characteristic of either shidda, rakhawa, and bayniya. Right? Shidda means strength, means the sound gets blocked. Especially when you pronounce the letter with a sukun. When you stop on it with sukun, the sound on the jim is yad. That's it. You can't go behind that. You can't keep going like the sheen, for example, when you say ash. So the sound is continuing. Yeah, that's a sifa. That's a characteristic for the letters. And in between are letters which are partially blocked. So the implication of these characteristics, based on the groups of letters, is it follows on from that in terms of the way you read the Quran. The loose letters take longer time to pronounce, as in nashrah. You see the sheen and the ha, because they are loose letters, they take longer time to pronounce. While the strong letters they take less time, and the in between takes in between. That's the summary of what I just said.
mashallah, jazakallah khair.
وياكم إن شاء الله. Does اختلاس stretching considers لحن جلي or لحن خفي? No, it's لحن خفي, brother. Because it doesn't change the meaning. Well, it depends. Again, يعني some people go beyond the lines in terms of the اختلاس. Because sometimes, yes, it actually changes the meaning of the word if you pronounce it slightly differently. But that's more to do not with the timing of the letters. That's to do with the harakat, right? So some people who do who read a dhamma longer. For example, if I say ya'malu, that's one person. If I say ya'malu now becomes group of people, right? Or if I say ya'mala is one, for example, amila is one person, but amila it's two people. So that has to do with the with the harakat, with اختلاس الحركات and اختلاس الحروف. That's the difference. But if you talk about the اختلاس or like stealing, اختلاس in Arabic means stealing. If you talk about stealing the timing of the letters, as in this example, then that is لحن خفي. That's a hidden mistake, not an obvious mistake, not a clear mistake. جزاك الله خير. But a good question.
السلام عليكم. بالنسبة لحرف الشين يعني والله
نعم.
شوي صعب حيكون، لأنه صفاته كثيرة من الهمس والتفشي والإصمات والانفتاح والاستفالة والرخاوة، كلهم حرف الشين. كيف الله كومبليكيت بصراحة. الله
صحيح.
صعب شوي. الله المستعان.
حرف الشين
إن شاء الله يعني يعني حنقدر نطبق جميع هذه بس ننتهي، لأنه حاليا إحنا حرف الشين
نعم هو في
أخذنا
بعض الصفات.
صفتين له.
نعم
تمام.
في بعض الصفات في باحث خاص على الأخطاء الشائعة في لفظ الحروف بعد الصفات كلها يعني بعد ما نخلي الصفات إذا أشوف يبدي بصفحة خليني أشوف إياه. يبدأ بصفحة اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. يبدأ في الصفحة 94 page 94. So this page 94 until page 90 no sorry 100 until page 114, that's the area where we can flex on the characteristics. هذا المكان اللي ناخذ به كل الحروف ونشوف شنو الاخطاء الشائعه. طبعا في عندي اضافات عليه ايضا، لانه هذا الكتاب يعني الدكتور ايمن كتبه للعرب. This book was written mainly for Arabic people mistakes, So I have added also my own version, which is including Urdu mistakes, you know, Indian mistakes, Indonesian mistakes, and stuff like that. I'm trying my best.
جزاك الله
I have
جزاك
recently
الله خير.
got a Japanese mistake as well.
جزاك الله خير يا مولانا، شكرا
Yeah,
لك.
inshallah. Someone is raising their hand.
Yes, brother. In like in verse 1 and 2 also, calf is red also and black also. So is there a difference?
In the example in the book,
Yeah, no, here also, like alam nashrah laka sadrak. So laka is also calf with the black color.
yeah, because that's okay. I understand. Okay, because if you stop on it, so if you stop on the
Okay.
calf, yeah. But if you continue, then it takes the same time as the متحرك letters. صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك. And if you continue, it becomes like a normal letter. The rule doesn't apply to it. So again, if you need to remember what I also mentioned about the shadid letters, the strong letters, which is read here. The Arabs have invented ways of running away from their strength. So قطب جد, the qalqala letters, the way you run from the stiffness is by doing the qalqala, which we will come to it later because it's a characteristic by itself. The kaf and the ta, we run away from the strength by doing the whispering, by doing this air that comes in the end. And the hamza, we have a whole subject on it, inshallah. So the hamza, there are different techniques for when the Arab invented to run away from the strength of it. Next characteristic, inshallah, we have time to do one more, is the isti'la and istifal. Isti'la is linguistically coming from the word elevation or going higher. And in the tajweed, it's actually the elevation of the furthest part of the tongue towards the upper soft palate when you pronounce the letter, and then this makes that elevation. If you see these arrows on the photo, that's where the sound is actually emitted towards the top part of the mouth and then making some reflections, and then these reflectionings make the sound more elevated, more pitched higher, right? The istifal is the opposite. You see the arrow is going down, so it's actually linguistically it means lowering or going down, and in the Quran it means it's lowering of the furthest part of the tongue to the bottom when you pronounce the letter. And the difference between these two, obviously majority of the letters are lowered letters apart from 7 of them. These 7 are summarized in the sentence خص ضغط قض. خص ضغط قض. So it has حروف الإطباق, which is the صاد and the ضاد and the طاء and the ضاء, these 4 sister letters. And apart from them you have the خاء and the غين and the قاف. These letters, the 7 of them, are the elevated letters. They are always elevated. But the elevation levels is different, and we will come to know this inshallah later, either today if we were lucky or maybe next week. We will see inshallah. It's important to mention that the lowered letters, the istifal letters, have 3 of them which are special cases: the alif and the lam and the ra, because these 3 letters have different rules, and sometimes they are elevated, sometimes they are lowered. So let's take the example. So again, remember that's the isti'la and istifal, and because of that characteristic, which is the elevation and the lowering, the ruling of the recitation which follows to that is the tafkhim and the tarqiq. Similar to when we said azminatul huruf is the consequences of the shidda and rakhawan bayniyah. Same thing here, tafkhim and tarqiq, which is the common terminologies used for tajweed, are the results of the letter being either musta'li or mustafil, elevated or lowered. So the elevated letters are always مفخمة, and the lower letters are always مرققة, and the special case is the alif, lam, and ra. So let's talk about the oh, that's one step ahead. Sorry, where's the alif? Oh, sorry, my mistake. I missed that slide. Let's go to the book, inshallah. No, Allah, it's not my mistake. Apparently, it's not my mistake. I thought the alif and the lam and ra would be the beginning. Okay, so the first thing to study is actually the levels of tafkhim, maratib al-tafkhim, right? Now, in the levels of tafkhim, there are two schools of thought. The first school of thought is one which is using 3 levels. So this school of thought is was from Ibn Tahan. So Ibn Tahan, he died in the year 561. His choice was that the highest level of elevation is when the letter has fatha on it, and the second highest level is when the letter has dhamma on it, and the third highest level is when the letter has sukoon on it, and the maksur, kasra on it, and the one which has sukoon, it doesn't have anything but it follows the letter which came before it. However, the choice of the book and our choice is the choice of the Imam al-Jazari, which is the from Imam al-Jazari, which is putting it in 5 levels. 5 levels. The highest level of tafkhim is the letter which has fatha and has alif after that. The second level is the one which has fatha only. The third one has dhamma. The fourth one is actually the one which is sukoon, because it follows what happens before it. And the last level, which is the maksur. But even the maksur one, we don't call it light, we don't call it lowered. It's still the 5th level of the elevation. So the examples we have for each letter is as follows. The ta, talut, talut. The next level is ta'am, ta'am. You see the ta versus ta, ta, ta. Butu, butu. شط شياطين شياطين. Right, so you see the levels go lower a little bit. Now it's important to mention one thing before I answer the questions coming in, inshallah. So the 4 letters, the ta, the dad, and the sad, and the va, because they have the itbaq characteristic, which will come later, they are considered higher level of tafkhim than the qaf and the ghain and the kha. They're always one level higher, right? So you need to remember these 4 letters, the top ones, are the highest level of itbaq. And because of other characteristics, the ta becomes the highest level, the highest tafkhim in the Arabic language. The ta letter has the highest level of tafkhim because of the jahr and the rakhawa and all of these other things. The ta is very stiff letter. Yeah. That's why when people mispronounce the ta with the ta, they're kind of butchering it, because the ta is like the strongest letter in Arabic language, and the ta is even no way even near, right? So I'm reading questions, sorry. What about the dhamma followed by waw med? Dhamma followed by waw med? Not sure if that changes anything. It doesn't change anything on the level of tafkhim. It changes if it has dhamma and harfu med after it adds med, because the waw, if the harfu med, waw maddiya, before there's dhamma, then that's natural med, but it doesn't make the elevation higher. No. Do we have to remember names of topic in Arabic and English, or especially for the exam? So brother Rizwan, the exam will be both in Arabic and English. You could choose the language you respond to, inshallah. I prefer that you remember the Arabic terminology, because these are like the literature. That's how we remember things in Tajweed. I will take another example maybe on the va. وإياكم inshallah. So the first example is ظالمون ظالمون موعظة موعظة ظلمات يظلمون يظلمون عظيم عظيم. You see the dot here? The dot, sorry, is still very elevated. Let's take the kha. خالصة خالصة خليفة خليفة خلة خلة يختص يختص أخيه أخيه. You see the kha? But some people say khalifa. That's wrong, right? The kha of with the fatha, that's the second level of istila. So that's why you have to say khalifa, not khalifa, not khalisah. It's khalisah. بغافل الغيب. Then you say غشاوة. The tricky one is actually the qaf, the lowest level, which is وقثائها وقثائها. You're coming very, very, very low, that you're almost resembling a kaf, but you don't say, not saying a kaf. But that's the lowest level of tafkhim. وقثائها قي, right? Not like الفرقان الفرقان قثائها. I guess now, by now, you can see the differences, inshallah, between these. But I open for questions.
Sheikh, quick question.
Yes.
So harful dad,
الضاد.
it's rikhwa and it's isti'la. So how do we make sure that it doesn't sound like a qalqala?
When you stop on it, you mean?
Yeah, like when it's in the
Yeah.
middle of the
So
sukoon.
that will come later, inshallah. We have the characteristic of al-istitala of the dad, which shows you how to pronounce this. So you say fadl, fadl, fadl. There's a elongation that happens in the dad when you pronounce it sakin. Like when you say والسماء والأرض والأرض. That's the additional sound. Unfortunately, the microphone doesn't help with that. But when you do it in person, it's more obvious. Yeah. Jazakumullah khair. I think we can stop. Maybe I'll just do one more thing. Yeah. I'll do. So there's a poem here. The poem is written by the Sheikh. His name is Muhammad bin Ahmed al-Mitwalli, right? So Sheikh al-Mitwalli, he died in the year 1313 Hijri. So it's not too late. It's not too late ago. He wrote this. He said, ثم المفخمات عنهم آتية على مراتب ثلاث وهي مفتوحها مضمومها مكسورها وتابع ما قبله ساكنها فما أتى من قبله من حركة فافرضه مشكلا بتلك الحركة. This is the first school of thought. The first school of thought says then the vowelized letters of tafkhim, ones come at the three levels, and they are the one which has the fatha first, the highest level, and then the one which has a dhamma, then the one which has a kasra. And the sakin follows what precedes it. That means whatever comes before it is a vowel, then assume it for its vowel, preceding it as the rank of the tafkhim. Then he's talking about the second school of thought. He's saying وَقِيلَ بَلْ مَفْتُوحُهَا مَعَ الْأَلِفِ وَبَعْدَهُ الْمَفْتُوحُ مِنْ دُونِ أَلِفِ مضمومها ساكنها مكسورها فهذه خمس أتاك ذكرها فهي وإن تكن بأدنى منزلة فخيمة قطعا من المستفلة فلا يقال إنها رقيقة كضدها تلك هي الحقيقة. He's saying, and it's also said, meaning that's the second school of thought, no, they are, the ranks are the fatha that's followed by alif, that's the highest level, and then after it is the fatha without an alif, then you have the dhamma, then you have the sakin, and then they have the kasra. So that is 5 as it mentioned to you. And if it's in a vowel in the lowest levels, even if it was in its lowest level, the fifth level, it has tafkhim. Cut off from the istifal. You cannot say it's lowered. This is not lowered. So it cannot be said that it's tarqiq or attenuation, because that is the opposite. That is the truth. So this poem just emphasizes when the terminology is used. When people say qi or si or ti, some people say make it lowered. It's not make it lowered. It's just the lowest level of elevation. That's the whole point about this poem is to correct the terminology used when you teach it to people, so you don't fall for using the wrong terminology. So with that, inshallah, I think we can close off here, because next week we can do the alif, the lam, and the ra, because these are all special cases. If there are no more questions, I'll leave you so you can pray your Isha, inshallah. وجزاكم الله خير.
جزاك الله خير.
وإياكم إن شاء الله. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب.
السلام عليكم، جزاك الله خير مولانا.
جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم.
جزاك الله خير يا أستاذنا.
وإياكم. السلام عليكم.
جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم.
جزاك الله خير.
وعليكم السلام.